My parents' retirement slideshow thanked my brother for keeping the house afloat, until my mortgage app notification lit up and showed every payment had been coming from my account for 2 years. The first time my family thanked my brother for saving my parents' house, my phone lit up with the mortgage notification proving I had paid for that lie. It happened at my father's retirement party, in a private room full of coworkers, neighbors, cousins, and relatives who knew only the polished version of us. Jason arrived late and still became the center, looking exactly like the devoted son everyone believed he was. I sat near the middle with my phone face down. I had promised myself I would not check email, my bank app, or the mortgage app. For one night, I wanted to be a daughter, not the person waiting to see whether Dad's house payment cleared. The slideshow started after dessert. It showed work pictures, holidays, and family photos where Jason was usually centered, and I was near the edge. That was normal. Jason brought joy. I fixed passwords, forms, calls, and money problems before they became visible. Then a photo of Jason appeared. He was standing in my parents' driveway with a grocery bag from one of the Saturdays he had dropped off takeout and stayed less than an hour. The caption said, "Thank you, Jason, for keeping the house afloat when things got hard." Everyone clapped. Aunt Linda put a hand over her chest. Someone whispered, "What a good son." Jason smiled modestly, but he did not look surprised. Dad nodded once and said nothing. Keeping the house afloat was not a metaphor to me. It had a monthly amount, confirmation emails, app notifications, and my account attached to it. Still, I stayed quiet. Maybe the wording was careless. Maybe I could swallow one more family lie for the sake of my father's party. Then my phone lit up. The notification was from the mortgage app. The payment had processed. Same lender, same amount, same account ending in 4 digits I had memorized. Payment confirmed. Aunt Linda was close enough to see. She leaned toward me and whispered, "Honey, why are you getting a mortgage payment alert?" I locked the screen too late. My mother heard enough to turn. "It's nothing," she said quickly. Aunt Linda blinked. "I just asked why she has the mortgage app." My mother gave me the look I knew well. "Not here. Not now. Don't make this harder." For a moment, I almost obeyed. I almost said it was my mortgage, or an old alert, or some app glitch. But the slide was still glowing behind her. Jason glanced over. His smile tightened. He looked annoyed, not shocked. My father cleared his throat and said, "Let's keep going." That was when I understood. They were not surprised by the truth. They were surprised the truth had appeared in the same room as the story. I did not stand up. I just looked at Aunt Linda and said, "Because the mortgage payment just cleared from my account." No one moved. Mom whispered my name like I had broken something. Jason laughed and said, "Come on, you don't have to make it weird." That was when I understood the problem was not the slide. It was that everyone expected me to keep paying for the truth and apologizing for the receipt. That notification was not a mistake. It was the newest entry in a 2-year record I had been taught to keep invisible. Before the mortgage became a number on my phone, my role had already been decided. Jason was the son who made people feel good. I was the daughter who made things work. Jason could be warm and charming. He gave big hugs, arrived late, and still made everyone glad he was there. He said, "Don't worry, I've got it," even when there was no proof. I was the one people called for broken printers, forms, passwords, and bank letters. I showed love by solving things. Over time, my family saw that as my function. When Jason brought dinner, Mom posted a picture. When I fixed billing issues, she sent a private thank you and never mentioned it again. Jason's help was a story. Mine was infrastructure. For years, I told myself I was mature enough not to need applause. I had a stable job. I was organized. Jason was always figuring things out, which meant everyone lowered the bar until he could step over it and be celebrated. My parents said, "You know how your brother is," or "You're just better at handling this stuff." That sentence was the trap. It sounded like respect if you did not listen closely. It made responsibility feel like a compliment. If I pushed back, my mother became wounded, as if I had taken something generous and made it ugly. Dad had a quieter version of the same pressure. If there was a bill to review or an account to update, he handed it to me. If Jason forgot something, Dad shrugged and said, "Your brother's not built for paperwork." Nobody ever asked what I was built for. By the time my parents struggled with the house, the pattern was normal. I knew their passwords, late fees, and the sound of my mother asking for help without asking. I also knew Dad's pride made money problems feel like failure. So when my mother first brought up the mortgage, she did not start with numbers. She started with shame. She called me on a Tuesday night and said retirement timing had been harder than expected. A few bills had stacked up. The house payment was coming due. They were not in danger yet, she said. But they needed a bridge. A temporary bridge. She said they only needed help for a few months, until Dad's paperwork settled and the budget adjusted. Then she said, "You know how proud he is. I just don't want him feeling small." That got me. I did not want my father to feel small. I did not want my mother panicking. I did not want Jason involved, because involving him usually created more performance than solution. Some part of me still believed that if I helped quietly, my parents would understand what it cost. I asked how much they were short, when it was due, and what the plan was after that month. "We're working on it," my mother said. I should have heard the warning. Instead, I opened my laptop, let her send me the portal information, and made the first payment. When the confirmation appeared, she cried a little and called me her steady girl, which was what she called me when she needed me to keep carrying something. Before we hung up, she said, "Let's keep this between us for now. Your father doesn't need the embarrassment." I agreed. At the time, I thought silence was kindness. At first, I did not understand that temporary help became permanent expectation. The first mortgage payment was the exception. The portal looked ordinary, no red warning, just a due date, a balance, and a button that said, "Make payment." I told myself I was buying time, so I paid it. When the confirmation appeared, Mom released a breath that sounded like relief and shame. Then she said, "I don't want him thinking he failed us." I asked if Dad knew she had called me. She paused long enough for me to understand he knew, but not in a way that required him to say the words. That was how my parents handled uncomfortable truths. They arranged the room so everyone could pretend no one had said what everyone understood. "He knows we needed a little help," she said. "He just doesn't need the details." I asked what would happen next month. "We should be fine by then," she said. "This is just a bridge." The next month, they were not fine. This time, my father called. Retirement paperwork was delayed, a medical bill had landed at the wrong time, and they would pay me back once everything settled. His voice was stiff with pride. "I hate asking you this," he said. "I know," I answered. That was the problem. I knew how ashamed he felt, and because I knew that, I made his shame more important than my discomfort. I made another payment. Then I opened a spreadsheet because that was how I made fear feel manageable. I wrote the amount, date, confirmation number, and a note that said, "Second payment, temporary." Temporary, as if writing the word could make it true. By the third payment, the mortgage app had become routine. I knew when reminders arrived and how long payments took to clear. Mom stopped sounding panicked and started sounding calmly grateful. Panic has urgency. Gratitude can become habit. I asked again what the plan was. Mom said they were still adjusting. Dad did not want to discuss money over the phone. Jason had been told only that things were tight, because there was always a reason not to ask him for help that came with due dates and confirmation numbers. One Saturday, I reviewed their expenses. There were places to cut, but not enough. I asked whether they had considered downsizing before retirement got tighter. Dad's face closed immediately. "This is our home," he said. I understood that, but what I wanted to say was, it is starting to become my bill. Instead, I said we needed a timeline. 3 more months? Maybe 6 at most. Mom nodded too quickly. Dad looked away. Nobody wrote anything down except me. Before I left, Mom touched my arm. "Please don't mention this to Jason. He'll feel terrible." I almost laughed. Jason's feelings had to be protected from a bill I was paying. My stress was manageable. His guilt would be too heavy. Still, I nodded again. That was when the arrangement changed. It was no longer just helping through a rough month. It was keeping Jason untouched by truth, Dad by embarrassment, Mom by conflict, and me quiet enough for everyone. The payment app did not care. It sent reminders, processed money, recorded dates, and told the truth in a way my family never did. By the 4th payment, nobody was calling it a bridge anymore. They were acting like I had always been part of the foundation. After the 4th payment, I stopped telling myself the arrangement was unusual. Not because it stopped hurting, because routine makes unfair things feel normal. The mortgage app sent a reminder before the due date. I checked my account, moved money if I had to, made the payment, waited for confirmation, then saved a screenshot in a laptop folder named House. I did not name it that because I planned a reveal. I named it that because I was embarrassed. At first, my parents still thanked me every month. Mom sent hearts. Dad said, "I'll make this right," in a voice that wanted belief without questions. Around the 6th or 7th payment, gratitude softened into expectation. Mom stopped asking if I could help and started asking if I had handled the house thing. If I asked about a plan or whether Jason could contribute, she said, "Your brother is not in the same position as you." That sentence made me feel sick. Jason was not in the same position because no one required him to be. He had a job and money for dinners, trips, and gifts. Mom treated like proof of a huge heart. When I paid the mortgage, I got a yellow heart and another task. Every family dinner became a ledger only I could see. Jason brought dessert. I paid the roof over the table. Jason got called thoughtful. I got called dependable. Dependable is a compliment until it becomes a cage. The first year passed with excuses. Paperwork, medical bills, car repairs, taxes, holidays. I delayed replacing my car, stopped looking at condos, and turned down trips because I was paying a mortgage on a house I did not live in. And through all of it, Jason's reputation as the loving son grew. He came by with takeout and left before dishes were done. He fixed one cabinet handle and Dad told 3 people. Mom posted about being blessed with a son who always showed up, and I read it right after getting a payment confirmation from the mortgage app. I almost commented, glad he could help, then deleted it. That was the pattern. Not one giant betrayal at first. Small edits to reality, repeated until the false version sounded natural. By the second year, I had stopped expecting repayment. I still tracked the numbers because records made me feel less crazy. They proved the wait was real. The strangest part was that my parents never fully denied what I was doing. In private, they knew. They let me carry the financial part as long as I did not ask for public truth. They got stability. Jason got the warm version of loyalty, and I got silence. The folder kept growing, confirmation after confirmation. Same lender, same house, same account. Month after month, the app told the truth in a language nobody in my family wanted to speak out loud. The first time Mom said Jason had really stepped up, I was rinsing plates from a dinner I had helped pay for in more ways than one. For 1 second, I almost asked whether she meant the mortgage, the groceries, or the calls with the lender. But Dad was in the next room, Jason was gone, and I still chose the version of peace that cost me the most. I wish I had spoken then. The slideshow was still frozen on Jason's face when Aunt Linda asked the question. At first, the room had not fully understood. People were still half smiling. Mom stood beside the projector, as if she could fix everything by clicking to the next slide. Aunt Linda looked from my phone to Mom, then back to me. "I'm sorry," she said. "I just saw the alert. Is that for their mortgage?" Mom said my name sharply. One word, and I was supposed to understand the instruction inside it. Do not explain. Do not embarrass us. I looked at the screen. Thank you, Jason, for keeping the house afloat when things got hard. Mom could have written anything else, but she had chosen the phrase that belonged to the bill I had been paying. Yes, I said. It's for their mortgage. The silence moved in pieces. Mom's face tightened. Dad stared at the table. Jason looked annoyed, not surprised. Mom tried to laugh. This is not the time for financial details. We're here to celebrate your father. I agree, I said. I meant it. But Aunt Linda was still looking at me. Then why did the payment alert come to you? Mom said Linda. I'm asking because the slide says Jason helped with the house. Jason gave a soft laugh. Aunt Linda, come on. It's not that deep. That sentence did something to me. I had spent 2 years making sure the mortgage was paid, and he was acting like the truth was rude for arriving. I unlocked my phone, opened the payment confirmation, and let Aunt Linda see because she had asked. Same amount, same lender, same account. Aunt Linda's eyes moved over the screen. This came from your account? Yes, Mom whispered. Please stop. Dad finally looked at me. We can talk about this later. Not thank you. Not I'm sorry. Just later, after the applause had gone to Jason. I heard myself ask, why does the slide say Jason kept the house afloat? The room went still. Mom said, it's just a phrase. No, I said, it's not. Jason shifted. You're making it sound like I did nothing. Did you make any mortgage payments? He opened his mouth, then closed it. I helped in other ways, he said. I was here. I checked on them. I brought things over. Mom said, both of you helped us in different ways. There it was, the sentence that puts a grocery bag and a mortgage payment on the same shelf. Then Jason said, you agreed to keep it private. He said it under his breath, but the room was too quiet. That was the slip. I stared at him. So you knew? Jason flushed. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? I meant it wasn't supposed to be a whole thing. A whole thing? 2 years of payments were not. Only my refusal to swallow the lie was. I scrolled back in the app just far enough for Aunt Linda to see the pattern. Payment confirmed. Payment confirmed. Payment confirmed. Dates lined up. Each one from my account. How long has this been going on? She asked. I looked at Mom first. She did not answer. So I said, 2 years. Dad pushed his chair back. Enough. I looked at the slide again. Jason's name, my sacrifice. I'm not the one who put it in the slideshow, I said. That was when the room truly froze. The screen was still behind us. The app was still in my hand. Jason had admitted he knew it was private. Mom had tried to shut it down. Dad had tried to move it to later. Aunt Linda looked at Jason and asked quietly, if you kept the house afloat, why is every mortgage payment coming from her account? Nobody answered. Mom finally clicked to the next slide. It was too late. The party continued. People ate cake. Dad thanked everyone. Jason avoided me. I stayed because leaving would have become another accusation. Outside, Mom waited until most people had left before she turned on me. But by then, the public version had already cracked. After the party, nobody asked why the slide lied. They asked why I let people see the truth. Mom waited until the last of Dad's coworkers had left before she said anything. In the parking lot, while I still held Dad's retirement cards, she said, "I hope you understand what you just did." Jason stood beside her. Dad looked away. "What I did?" I asked. "Tonight was about your father." "I know. Do you? Because you made it about money?" That was the first rewrite. The slideshow made it about money. The notification only contradicted it. But already, the problem was that I had let people see the receipt. Jason said, "You could have talked to us after. You accepted the applause during." What was I supposed to do? Stop the whole slideshow? Yes, if someone thanked me for paying your car loan for 2 years and I knew you were paying it, I would correct it. That's different. Why? He did not answer. Dad finally spoke. "This is not the place." "The place was inside," I said, "on a projector screen." Mom said, "You embarrassed him in front of people he worked with for 30 years. No. The slide embarrassed him. The lie embarrassed him. I answered a question. You could have said it was private. That was the family system. Take the ugly part into your own body so everyone else can leave with the pretty version. Jason muttered. You wanted people to know. Maybe I did. I had not planned it, but yes, I wanted one person to finally know. I wanted the slide not to lie, I said. Mom said it was wording. It said Jason kept the house afloat. He has helped us. With the mortgage? Nobody answered. Jason said, I brought over dinner. I was there when Dad needed me. But that is not what the slide said. Dad rubbed his face. Can we not do this in a parking lot? Then when? I asked. For 2 years it was never the time. So when exactly was I supposed to tell the truth? Nobody answered. Mom's eyes filled. You made us look like liars. I didn't make you look like anything. Jason opened his car door. I'm done with this tonight. Before he got in, I said, you knew I was paying. He stopped. You said inside that I agreed to keep it private, so you knew. Jason shrugged. I knew you were helping. I didn't know every detail. Did you think you were making the mortgage payments? No. Then why did you let them clap? Because it was Dad's party, and I wasn't going to ruin it. There it was. He could accept false praise to avoid ruining the party. I could not answer a direct question without being accused of destroying it. Dad finally looked at me. For 1 second, I thought he might say something real. Instead, he said, you should have let us handle it privately. I nodded. You had 2 years to handle it privately. On the drive home, the group chat started rewriting the night. Cousins said money should have waited. Mom wrote that the celebration had been overshadowed by private family support, and that no one had meant to erase anyone. Then Jason added, I'm not doing this drama. I know what I've done for Mom and Dad. That was when my hand stopped shaking. Something in me clicked into facts. I opened the house folder, made one clean screenshot showing dates, recurring amount, and account source, and typed one message. The slideshow publicly credited Jason for keeping the house afloat. Here is the payment history showing why that was not true. I paid the mortgage every month for 2 years. I am not discussing this further tonight. The old version of me would have deleted it, but that version had paid for silence, and silence had turned into a slideshow. So I sent it. For a few minutes, nobody knew what to say. Someone started typing, then stopped. Mom did not respond. Jason did not respond. I felt sick and exposed, but the pretty version had cracked. Mom called twice. I did not answer. Dad texted, we need to talk when everyone is calmer. Jason texted, you're unbelievable. I put the phone face down, then opened the mortgage app again. The latest payment sat at the top of the history, clean and confirmed. That was when I realized the app had been doing something my family never did, keeping an honest record. The group chat was supposed to shame me back into silence. Instead, it made me put every receipt together. The next morning, I woke up to 13 unread messages and a headache from sleeping without really sleeping. Mom had texted, we need to repair the damage from last night. The damage, not what happened, not what they did. Jason had privately written, you really enjoyed that, didn't you? I had not enjoyed it, but he would only use that against me, so I did not answer. Instead, I gathered the confirmations, bank transfers, app screenshots, Mom's message, and Jason's text. Not for revenge. I needed a record that did not depend on my family's memory. That was when Aunt Linda called. I need to tell you something, she said. The slide about Jason was not my wording. Your mother sent the notes. What did she write? Aunt Linda sighed. She wrote, "Jason has been our rock, helping us keep the house afloat." I shortened it. "Some betrayals hurt because they confirm what you were begging not to believe." Mom had chosen and typed the official family version. Aunt Linda sent the screenshot. There it was in Mom's words. "The party hurt because the lie became public. This hurt because it proved the lie had been prepared." I saved it in the folder. Then I called Mom. She answered guarded. "Are you ready to talk calmly?" I talked to Aunt Linda. The slideshow notes. A long silence. Then she said, "I cannot believe Linda is stirring this up." She said the wording came from you. "It was a slideshow," Mom said, "not a legal document. Serious enough for applause, not for accountability. You wrote that Jason helped keep the house afloat. He has been emotionally supportive. Then write that. You are being very literal. I paid a literal mortgage." Her breath sharpened. "You are obsessed with credit, and it is not a good look. I'm asking why you publicly credited Jason for something you knew I was doing. You agreed to keep it private. I agreed to keep Dad from feeling embarrassed. I did not agree to let Jason be praised for bills he never touched." Mom's voice dropped. "Your father is devastated." "I'm sure he is. That sounds cold." "It's not cold. I'm devastated too." She did not respond. Then she said, "We still have to deal with the mortgage." Everything in me went still. Under the shame and accusation, the mortgage was still due. "What is your plan?" I asked. "We need a little time." "How much time?" "We can discuss that as a family. We have discussed it for 2 years, except I was the only one making payments." "That is not fair." "It is exact." Mom made a frustrated sound. Quote, "You know your brother cannot suddenly take on that kind of payment." "No, I know he can't. That is why the slide was a lie." She started crying quietly. The old part of me wanted to comfort her, because that had always been my job. But I did not comfort her this time. "I will not make another mortgage payment after next month," I said. The crying stopped. "What?" "I will pay next month because it is scheduled. After that, you need another arrangement." "You cannot just do that." "I can. We will lose the house. You may have to downsize. This is your family home." "I know." "How can you say that so easily?" Nothing about it was easy. I loved that house, but it had become proof of a family story that survived because I funded it. So I said, "It is not easy. It is just final." "What are we supposed to tell people?" she asked. That was the most honest thing she had said. "Whatever you want," I said. "But I'm done paying for the version where Jason saved you." She hung up. An hour later, Dad texted, "Your mother says you are stopping the mortgage." I waited for something about the slide or the 2 years. Nothing came. So I wrote back, "After next month, yes." His reply took 9 minutes. "We need to talk. This is not who you are." Maybe he was right. Maybe this was not who I had been. But that version of me had stood under a slideshow thanking my brother for her sacrifice. I typed, "Maybe it is who I should have been sooner." Then I opened the mortgage app and looked at the scheduled payment. For the first time in 2 years, I saw it as a clock. For the first time in 2 years, the next mortgage payment did not have my silence attached. When Jason was finally asked to help with the mortgage, the house got very quiet. Mom called 3 days later. "Your brother is very upset." I almost asked, "With what?" Instead I said, "Okay." He feels attacked. He was praised for something he didn't do. He says you made everyone look at him like he was a fraud. Mom, I did not make him accept the slide. He did not make the slide. No, you did. That stopped her. Then she sighed. We are past that now. We need to figure out what happens next. That was how my family skipped accountability and asked me to fix the consequence. What happens next is you and Dad make a plan that does not include my account, I said. She was quiet. Then she said, we talked to Jason. I waited. He can help some, but he cannot take on the whole thing. There it was, the collapse of the slideshow in one sentence. For 2 years, Jason had been the hero, because no one attached money to the role. The second praise became a bill. Everyone understood the difference between showing up and carrying weight. How much is some? I asked. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. He has rent, his car, his own life. I have those things too. You are in a better position. There it was again. I was in a better position before I paid your mortgage for 2 years, I said. Mom did not respond. After the scheduled final payment cleared, I sent my parents the date, confirmation that it was the last payment from my account, and a reminder to remove my payment method. No threats, just facts. Dad called that evening. His voice sounded older. So that's it? Yes. You're really going to let us lose the house? The word let did a lot. I'm not letting anything happen, I said. I'm stopping payments I should not have been making indefinitely. We never asked for indefinitely. You also never made a plan for it to end." He was quiet. Then he said, "We were going to pay you back." I wanted to believe that, but after 2 years, intention was not enough. "With what?" I asked softly. He did not answer. It was not cruelty, it was math. Dad said, "Your mother says you turned everyone against us." No. The payment history did that. That is a hard thing to hear from your child. I know. It was hard being your child and your safety net at the same time. For once, he did not correct me. I thought maybe he would apologize for the slide and the 2 years. Instead, he said, "I don't know what we're going to do." That was the closest he came to admitting the truth. Over the next few weeks, the family story changed. First, Mom said I misunderstood the slideshow. Then she said I had helped, but did not understand Jason's support in other ways. When the problem became impossible to hide, she said the house had become too much for retirement. That was closest to the truth. And still it left me out. Jason avoided the subject. Aunt Linda said he offered groceries and maybe one utility bill. After 2 years of being praised for keeping the house afloat, that was what the hero could offer. The hardest day came when Mom told me they were meeting with a realtor. "We're going to see what the house might be worth," she said, like an accusation wearing a coat. For one wild second, I wanted to take it back and save the house, but I had learned where that road ended, in a dark restaurant room with a projector screen, thanking my brother for my sacrifice. So I said, "That sounds like a practical step." They did not lose the house overnight. They met with a realtor, talked to the bank, and Jason discovered his budget did not contain a mortgage-sized miracle. My parents eventually sold and found a smaller, more honest place. Mom cried when she told me. I cried after we hung up. I did not want them to suffer, but I also did not want to keep paying for the privilege of being erased. Dad apologized, sort of, 2 weeks before they moved. He texted, "I know you helped us more than we admitted. I should have handled things better." I wrote back, "Thank you for saying that." I did not add, "It's okay," because it was not okay. Jason never apologized. A month after my parents moved, he posted himself helping Dad carry a box. The caption said, "Family always shows up." I closed it. The last thing I did was remove the mortgage app from my phone's home screen. I kept the records because memory is fragile in families that prefer comfort over truth. But I did not need the app staring at me anymore. For 2 years, that app had been proof that I was useful. Then it became proof that I was being erased. Now, it is just a record of something I survived. People still ask if I regret not waiting until after the party. Some days I do, but I do not regret answering. The lie was public. The correction became public because the truth finally arrived in the same room. So, am I the asshole for exposing the mortgage truth at my father's retirement party and refusing to keep paying? I do not know what others would have done. I only know that I did not lose the house that day. I lost the job of pretending I was invisible enough to deserve my family.